You're listening to Unfiltered Brew, hosted by Master Cicerone Joe Vogelbacher and brewery founder Eric Flanagan, out of the Sugar Creek Brewing Company in Charlotte, North Carolina, featuring special guests Tim Sattler and Lee Rottweiler from Yakima Quality Hops.
Well, hey, we're in the beer business, so we always start with the beer. I know you guys probably don't. It's a different time over there in the West Coast, but we're cheers to y'all.
Oh, they just got done with their pancakes?
Probably 3 hours ago. But Tim, I'm sad I didn't get a chance to see you. I heard you were out hunting for the hop harvest, and that's kind of tradition for you.
It is, and occasionally you find hops when you're also hunting for other things.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I wanted to kind of get into today. I don't know if we should just jump right into that, but we're real excited about the Elani hop. We ran a full-scale production batch a couple weeks ago. So it's in the tanks now. It's smelling really nice, and we're gonna can it up and send you guys some batches so you can see. We ran one. Our normal batch uses Citra and Simcoe, with we'll say the majority of it being Citra, and then the new one that we ran, same grist, same base, same fermentation, same yeast, same tanks, is 75% Elani. 25% Mosaic. So it'll be fun for you guys to do a side-by-side if you want to kind of get the
We did a side-by-side. It was pretty good.
Yeah, no, I loved it. It was
very good.
Really nice, soft bitterness. Very. We did something like that up there with you, Lee.
Yep.
That was good times. But Tim, do you mind telling it? Sorry, go ahead.
To do selection is here now, and they're going to do the very last blind sensory on that one that you did in about 20 minutes here, and then I'll put the data together on it. So,
and you said, Lee, tell us a little bit about how that experiment worked.
Yeah, so it was a blind trial where we had a control version, which was the original recipe of a major East Coast hazy brand, and the trial or new version with Elani subbed in for Simcoe. And so we set it up so that each panelist received 4 glasses, 2 with the trial version, 2 with the control version, and so then the panelists had to try to sort the 4 glasses into 2 categories and correctly identify the trial from the control. And if they were able, and after they thought they got it right, then they note what they perceived as differences between the control and trial. And then write down their sort of confidence level in whether they were able to differentiate them. And after they did all that, then we revealed which glass was which. I would say at this point about 70%, only about 35% of people were able to correctly identify the trial from the control. They're very, very similar. And of that 35 to 40% that actually correctly categorized them, about 60 to 70% preferred the Elani version over the original. So it was a very cool trial. We have about 31 people that have completed it now, so a decent data set. And I'll crunch those numbers, but Joe was one of the few that actually identified it correctly. But you also prefer the Elani version after identifying it. So it was fun. It's fun.
So I was going to ask, he performed well?
They put me on the spot under pressure.
I will say that he was even his level of confidence. It was difficult, right? Like you were sweating.
Yeah, I was, and I gave it a 50% confidence rating. I mean, which isn't really super high. One of the things we had to do was rate our confidence of you sort the beers. So there's 4, you sort them, and then you rate them. How sure you are. And it was hard. It took me like 25 minutes to figure out the difference between the two. And for the differences, one of the big things is Simcoe is kind of known for that really pine forward, but it also makes some really nice fruit flavors as well. But the Elani has a little less of that and more soft and more bitter. I mean, excuse me, a more soft bitterness. It's hard to describe like that.
I picked that up right away.
Yeah, which moves you into the kind of more think about the softer tropical fruits like cantaloupe or mango or pineapple, things like that. It goes really well with the esters from the New England style yeast strains. But yeah, it was a really fun experiment. Thanks for having us do it, Lee, and thanks for everything that you did for us up there. Selection was really fun. So we'll come back to that. But Tim, if you don't mind, just to go on the record, can can both of you guys state your name and your position at? I know that you're the founder, but name and your position at Yakima Quality.
Yeah, so Tim Sattler, and I'm the founder and CEO of Yakima Quality Hops.
And Lee?
Lee Rottweiler, co-owner, vice president, Yakima Quality Hops.
Thank you. And then Tim, would you mind telling us a little bit about your hunting experience and how did Elani go from something that I heard that you kind of stumbled upon it to now being possibly in some of the most popular beers on the East Coast?
Very cool story, by the way. I loved hearing it from you. So I want to hear it from you now, definitely.
Yeah, this area dates back to, I think, 1979, when my dad took my brother and I on the St. Joe River in Idaho. Beautiful, one of the best trout fishing rivers in the country. And so I've been going there since I was a kid and fell in love with the area. And then my best friend and his parents, they bought a place on the river in 2015. So I've been going up there even more. And in 2015, I did come across this, looked at it for a year, and, that was about all I did. The next year, I thought, well, I need to look at that because I'm a hop guy. So during September, I grabbed some cones and rubbed them and thought, they sound like they have a little something there. So I did bring, a little garbage sack home with me, and we dried them and did a little sensory on them and did some initial test on them with alpha. And they really had a kind of a unique little smell to them. But they were kind of small, and it was maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours of indirect sunlight per day. So all these things made me think, well, what happens if it comes down and, it was not getting any water, fertilizer, very little sunlight. So we did another year of sensory, I think in 2018, 19, and thought it was worth looking at deeper. So I brought home 2 rhizomes in November of 20.
Now, these are wild, Tim? You just found them out there while you were fishing? Is that how it worked?
Yeah, it was in the woods, hunting, fishing, hiking. I do all kinds of recreation up there. So yeah, I came across it. And so it just looked a little unique, but I thought, it still could be some other variety that is in existence. I just didn't know, but it did seem a little different. So we brought 2-inch rhizomes home. I tried to plant them in my office to get them going. I couldn't do it. So I gave them to a professional greenhouse. They got 1,000 plants over the winter, and we planted a little over half an acre, 3/4 of an acre in 2021. And that was the initial. And then I took samples to both Denver CBCs, and just seeing people's reactions when they went down and smelled it, they immediately popped their head up and said, "What is this?" So then I started realizing there really was something there. And we had some high-end regarded breweries do some initial testing and kind of opened my eyes like, hey, this might be something. So then the next year we expanded the acreage to 62, 63 acres and really started getting good traction last year. And then we worked on a name, which is really hard to do, got the name. And in the process, it took a year, but we did get a patent on the plant, which is very hard to do. There's not a lot of hops that are patented. And so it's quite a process to go through to get that patent process done. So that basically means it's a totally unique hop. We've had lots of genetic testing done. They don't know the parentage. My best guess is it's been up in that area where there was logging, mining from the turn of the century, and they had to grow their own grains and hops to brew with, so they didn't have to ride their horses for 4 hours to Spokane. So my belief is this cross-pollinated and it just changed into what it is today. And over those 100 years or whatever it's been, it's just become a really hardy plant. It can obviously handle the cold because of where it's at in the mountains. but also the heat. I mean, when it was 115 degrees and 18 inches tall, I fully expected it to be dead, and it was just thriving. So now we know that it does very well in the heat. Mildew has not been an issue. Pests have done very well, and it's a very vigorous plant. Pretty easy to grow, and we're learning a lot about it. Go out every week from the time it's still under the ground until harvest. So we watch it, taking a lot of data and notes, trying to figure out when to burn it back, train it, and when to pick it. So there's been a lot to go into this to try and get it maximize, its potential. And so we're finding out the picking window is somewhere around the 22nd of September, which most hops, the busy is the 10th to the 20th with Citra, Mosaic, Simcoe, all those. So you don't want a hop to pick in that time frame because it just gets all bunched up. So you really want an earlier pick or a late pick. And so it looks like this is going to be, 24th, 25th. Although I did go down and get some, I left some in the field to do some later testing. We picked some October 2nd and dried them, and they seem to have a little bit more punch, but still not have OG. I'm going to pick one more time out of 3 fields on Monday and dry those, and that's going to be October 8th. And so we'll see how that does.
Now sorry, Tim, I'm going to cut you off, but what's tell us what the normal range for harvest is, because we're a lot of our listeners aren't really hop experts, so we'd love to hear what time of the year is early, what time of the year is late.
So Yakima typically starts around August 21st with Centennial, and then progresses to the end of September, usually the first couple days of October. But usually like the 25th on is usually just your high alpha hops, your CTZ, your Pado, those hops. And so they're not looking for the aroma, they're just looking for alpha so they can hang longer. And so when you start going late into the season, it doesn't really matter if they've got onion garlic because they're just using it for alpha, for extracting. So if we can have this hop get picked end of September, 1st of October, it opens up a huge opportunity for growers to have another aroma hop that picks that late. And also it's one of the highest yielding aroma hops. Looks like it's going to be in that 13 bale an acre, maybe 14 bale an acre range, which is quite big.
Yeah, so 13, just so everybody knows, it's a bale is 200 pounds, right? 200 pounds of dried hops. And that's after it's already been taken down to like 8% moisture. So most of the water's out of the hop. They're packaged and baled into 200 pound big sacks. And that's quite a bit from an acre. That's awesome. So that allows you to be competitive on price, right?
Yeah. So basically a lot of the pricing is based on your yield. And so Citra is, anywhere from 7.5 to 9 bale hop. So that price has to be higher. So if you can get a higher yielding hop, it makes it much better for the grower, for the dealer, and for the brewer. So we lowered the price on Elani this year, and I didn't want that to come across as, it must not be selling well because they're lowering the price. That's not the case. The reason why I lowered the price is because we're figuring out what the yield is, and so now we can pass that savings on to the brewer.
That's just awesome.
That's great. Joe and I talk about pricing all the time, especially, we don't know what the economy is going to do. We don't know, what drinkers are going to do next. And things are getting expensive all across the board. So saving us some room on the hops really helps us out here too. So I hope people realize that the most expensive is not always the best solution, I should say.
That's a great point. I mean, we're going into really tough times for beer in general, and you seeing breweries close. So being able to give somebody a high quality product for a better price goes a long way, and it speaks a lot to your business acumen there as well, Tim. But
it gives us a lot of flexibility to do things too,
no doubt. I mean, one thing it's just mind blowing to me is how many. So you go up there in Yakima, there's just hops everywhere and thousands of different varieties being tried, and they're nurtured in greenhouses, and they have labs that they grow these things in, and they're breeding them and doing different. I mean, it's kind of outside of my expertise, but how rare is it, Tim, to just find something out in the wild and then put it out into production?
You stole my question. How often do you
Yeah.
find one walking like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's very rare because there's a lot of wild hops, but most of them are, clusters, the most common one. And there's some Neo-Mexicanas. There's a lot of cross-pollinated hops that just are out there, but most of them are either don't have good aroma or low yielding, hard to grow. There's different reasons. And so to find this one, that's why I wasn't real, all over it when I first saw it, is because most of them are nothing, right? And so I was slow to proceed with it, but then once we realized that it really was something, then we jumped on this faster wagon. But Amarillo was found, so there you go. I mean, great hop, and so that one was found. So it does happen. And when I've asked some growers, would you rather have one developed in a lab or one that's been out here for 100 years? And they said, well, we take that one that's 100 years because it's already been through the harsh environment and it's easier to grow and pest and everything else. So yeah, it's very, very rare, but it does happen.
Amarillo is a fantastic hop. I mean, we get all of our Amarillo from you guys, so highly recommend that hop as well. And now you got another great one in the fold. But amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Oh, no, whenever. I'm fine.
Can you tell us about, you said it was hard to get the name Elani and picking a name, and we have that kind of challenges all the time with picking beer names. You want to make sure that you can, put a stamp on that name and protect it and not step on anyone else's toes. Can you tell us a little bit about the name and the logo?
I'll jump in real quick on this one a little bit.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I mean, at our heart, and Joe, you know this because we worked so closely with you and Lael for so long, but we're a family company. It was just Tim and I to start, and Tim's my uncle, and so that is really near and dear to our hearts. So when we were struggling with finding a name, naming's hard. There's with 9,000 breweries, and every one of them has multiple beers, and there's wine, there's spirits. There's so many names that are already taken. It's very, very difficult to find something that you aren't stepping on other people's toes with. And so we went round and around with it for months and months and months, and think we'd find one we like, and it didn't work out. And we kind of just came back to kind of what is important to us as a company and what's important to keep forefront in our when we're launching this new hop into the world. And we realized that family is the most important thing for our company. And so Tim and I lost my mom, Tim's sister, about 10 years ago, 11 years ago now, to cancer. And we thought, wow, it'd be really, really cool to sort of honor her, or, to her and just keep her in the forefront of our minds and the values that she had. And so her name was Melanie. And so what we did was we took the first and last letter off of her name and ended up with Elani, which has a really nice flow to it off the tongue. It actually is close in how it sounds to Hawaiian word that means tropical and citrus, which is really cool.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. But it also keeps just kind of in our minds forefront every day, what we're trying to do with quality and fairness and transparency and integrity. And so it worked out really well. We're super excited about it, and it's been received really well. And another cool thing that sort of happened was that some of the artwork that was done of Melanie when she was going through fighting her was in Hawaii, where she would go when she was trying to recover from treatments. And so we took that, my wife took that artwork and modeled it and kind of changed it and made it into the logo and graphic are on the Elani swag right now. So the shirt that you have on there, Michael, is my mom's hand holding a hop, but what she was holding in the artwork was a stone that she would hold during cancer treatments. It was her hope stone. So it all kind of comes full circle. And is just a perfect fit for our first proprietary hop.
So you're saying that was built off of some artwork that your mom had done herself?
So her good friend, who lived on Maui at the time, that camp with when she visited, he took a photo of her beach on the southern end of Maui, and then from that photo, she was an excellent artist. So she did a a large charcoal drawing of itself based on the photo. And then a professional artist that did oil paintings did a large oil on that beach holding the stone, looking out at Hawaii. And then so that's where the logo came from.
That's just awesome.
That's awesome.
That's I can yeah, that's really great, and that's touching. Lee, what type of cancer she had, if you don't mind me asking? And you can pass on this question for sure.
She wouldn't mind talking about it. Lung cancer. She never smoked a day in her life. She was one of the healthiest, most health conscious people we've ever known. So she battled it. They gave her 6 months when they found it, and she battled it for 5 years. Just a wonderful, brave, strong, beautiful person. And so that's why I think it just was the perfect fit for what we wanted to do in our company right now.
We're happy to honor her with this. And yeah, I mean, it's I don't have a feel. I have a feeling this is going to be, great for you all. So appreciate you chatting about that and telling us a story. It's super touching there.
Yeah, we do quite a bit of charity and fundraiser, and we lost Joe's sister to cancer not too long ago. We do several events. Joe's on the board for 24 Foundation, so maybe this will be the hop that we use when we're doing our charity beers,
I think we ought to. Yeah. I ought to, yeah. So, I mean, we're real proud that we run one of the largest rowathons on the East Coast, and and you guys have contributed to that in the past, so we really appreciate it. And this year we raised $50,000, which went to charity, and then last year we raised $75,000. So over the last few years, it's upwards of $250,000. So we're excited about that. And a few years ago, I lost my sister to cancer. She wasn't a drinker, smoker, drug user, or anything like that. She passed from cholangiocarcinoma, which is a liver cancer, very rare. She fought it for around 5 years. And being that we have the brewery and we have a voice in the community, we, like you guys, family's important to us. Each year we do an event kind of in my sister's memory where we raise money for a local foundation called 24 Foundation. And you guys have donated to that in the past. We appreciate it. Over the last 5 years, it's been almost $250,000 raised. So we're real proud about that. And that's kind of how we honor my sister Michelle's memory. That's on michellesmoneymission.com. But I love what you guys have done with Elani, where now every beer that's brewed with this, you guys can, you're honoring your mom and your sister there, Tim. So that's just awesome.
Yeah.
Great. But yeah, fantastic. So
real quick, let me ask a question. So you guys mentioned these hops stand up to the elements really well. Do you guys see that being a problem? Whether you're for or against the belief of global warming or climate, has it been hotter up there for you guys? Has it been hotter for you to the point where it's actually affecting the crops drastically, or no?
Well, the first year we had the initial 1 acre, it hit 116 degrees at the farm. And that was the year that it really hurt the malt too. And so, it proved that year that it could withstand that heat. The next year it got up to 105, 106, did well. This year, we had some longer spells of heat, but not as high a heat. So yes, there is some hops that don't do as well in the heat. And so it appears that this one can handle it quite well. So
can you give me some examples for some of the viewers out there of hops that don't do well in the harsh elements in the sun, in the heat?
Well, I don't want to pick on certain proprietary hops, but
I get it. Okay.
I don't really want to talk about theirs. But there is some that, and it depends on when it blooms too, because, it doesn't matter if it's Elani or any hop, depending on when it blooms, if it's a really hot period, it can really stun them. And so it also has to do with the timing of that heat too. So, one hop might do okay if it's hot in May, but it might not do as good in July or vice versa. So it's growing. It's growing a product that you can't predict with the weather. So, overall, there's a lot of hops that do well, and there's a lot of them that struggle. So, to find one that does well in that high heat is great for the growers.
So are you guys thinking about that in the long term of your side of the industry? Are you guys working on things that can combat the long heats? I mean, where's the technology in the hops going these days?
Well, there's a lot of breeding going on for two things, and heat is definitely one of them, but yield. So there's right now in the industry, they don't really want to produce a hop that's less than 10 bales an acre. It's just, in this economy, it's just getting too expensive to grow. So if you have a low yield hop that's 5 or 6 bales, it's just so expensive to the brewer that it doesn't make sense. So if you can get up there 10 bales at least, then it makes more sense for the grower, the dealer, and the brewer. So basically every bale over 10 bales really helps everybody out.
So that's awesome. I want to just change gears for 2 seconds, guys, and feel free to jump in, whoever this is more appropriate for. And but could you tell us about, because you really initially were just kind of you two guys. If I remember correctly, when we first started, we were just dealing with you two. And now I came up to see you for Hop Harvest, and there's like 30 employees. So you've had stratospheric growth in a really tough market with a lot of competition. Can you tell us about how you started the business, where the idea came from, and how you've been able to grow so much? And a little bit about that would be awesome.
I'll start and let Lee tap in here, but we started in 2013, 2012. I had one of my good friends I grew up with in Spokane that had his own brewery, and he was short on hops back then, 2012. So he called me to see if I could help him source some more hops because he was growing very fast. And so I did. And in that time, I thought, oh, maybe I could do something like this and maybe make a couple extra bucks to help the kids in college. And so I thought I could sell to home brewers. And I bought 6 bales the first year and built my own website to sell ounces. And by the time it was pelleted, I had breweries asking for hops. I thought, well, instead of sitting at home, I was a radiology tech in orthopedic surgery. So I'd come home at night and I would package up these packages and then sell them. I never even turned on the website. Breweries found out that I had them. So I was like, well, it's easier to sell a box than it is to sit here and do all this labor. So that's how it started. And then it just kind of grew from there. And
are you from Yakima, Tim?
I'm from Spokane, but I've been in Yakima since 1990.
Is that how you were able to do it? Meaning that you had some local connections, and that's how you could source the hops?
Yeah, I had a lot of people that I knew in the industry, and so it was just kind of a natural fit, which I had a lot of people doubt that I could do it. And I, even to this day, I had people say, we doubted you because it's such a hard thing to break into. And I think the reason why we were successful is just doing the right thing. I always say that, I say that to my kids, whoever, you just do the right thing. You be fair and honest to people, whether it's price, quality, service. I think our service is some of the best in the industry, and that's what people want. And so from there, we started growing so much, developing relationships with very large breweries that we ended up, our need for more cold storage grew. So we were renting rooms and more rooms, and finally a facility came open, and we bought a 9-acre cold storage facility, and now we're one of the largest cold storage facilities in the industry, which we store for a lot of the major breweries. And then during COVID, we were having a hard time with trucking, so I bought a trailer, hired a truck to pull the trailer to move product, and that turned into starting a freight brokerage company so that we could get more trucks running and moving hops. And then we moved into produce and beer and empty kegs. And then this year we started our own truck, is running now independently. So it's just kind of growing off of each other.
That's amazing, Tim. Where are most of your customers? Are they all over the country, or are they in the Northwest?
Well, we're global, but California's big, East Coast is big, but we are global, and we've got customers all over.
That's awesome.
So how many customers do you have on the Elani hop right now? Can you tell us that?
Oh boy, because we have a couple other distributors. BSG and Haas are two of our big distributors, and Haas recently got on board with it, and so they will be Looks like a couple advanced products will be coming with Lupomax and Incognito, which is a pretty big deal. And so there's hundreds, and I don't know, Lee,
I think upwards of, I would say 500 to 800 breweries have beers with it, and definitely a good chunk of breweries, maybe 100 or so, have brewed multiple beers and have it in consistently produced beers at this point. So we've been really happy. So I guess I would add, the only thing I would add to the story of how we've grown, and it directly relates to Elani, is I think one of our things is building on about doing the right thing is we've really been focused on building relationships, really strong relationships with our core brewing partners, and we've grown together. So we've done it with Sugar Creek, but with 50 or 100 other really closely partnered breweries that are now by this point our friends as well. And so we do appreciate they've supported Elani from the beginning the last year, and by this point many have adopted it into their core brands over. So part of it is, Elani's a beautiful hop. It checks all the boxes, yield for pest resistance, for aroma. But there are other hops that are also great. And I think one of the things I've built is that we have really close partnerships and friendships with our brewing partners that support us. And so you guys have chosen to give Elani a chance when you could have done that with 10 other hops. Chose to do that because we've built that relationship for 10 years. Fair. And so package, right? It just goes back to that whole mentality or philosophy around the whole company. And that's, I think, part of why Elani is doing so well. And it really is taking off. We're really excited about it. And it's because of the partnerships, I think, partially, that we've created.
So your job there, Lee, is more in operations, right? And Tim's kind of more of the visionary. What's it like 20-fold growth is bonkers. How do you keep from going insane? What's your trick to keep all the great customer service you have since you started?
For the first part of our journey, we went bonkers and just muscled everything. Worked all the time, but we learned a lot. We learned a lot about sustainability, about building a fantastic team. So we're pretty lean. Like you mentioned, approximately our number of, that's for 4 companies, and we're global. But we have been able to develop an incredible team. So the people that are part of YQ8 and our other companies are outstanding. I think the best in the industry, and they've taken on a lot of it, and they're running with it. And so I think our teammates enough, John, Abby, Danny, Ryan, and Daniel, all the people in the warehouse or on the admin team. So that's the piece. It's about Tim and I have had to learn, and you guys, I think the same way. You found a company, it's your baby. You have your hands in every piece of it, and then learning to delegate and to give pieces to other people and to let them with it. Right. That's been the trick in the last three years or so, is trusting other very talented people with parts of the company that they can do better than us. And so we have definitely come to a place where we are sustainable and we're able to grow in a healthy.
So Lee, what was your background prior to doing this job?
Yeah, so I was in educational leadership. I was definitely a classroom teacher, but also like a senior counselor, and I started school administration. So it was all non-traditional, sort of innovative educational practices and designing that type of thing. So I loved it, and I was passionate and did a lot of really cool things. At one point I was getting really tired, and it was summer, and Tim was like, "Hey, there's a hop brewery thing on the East Coast, and I'm going to fly out there. You want to just drive up?" I was on the East Coast at the time, and I was like, that sounds kind of fun. I'm sure. So I went up there, and I just fell in love with the culture of the brewers and the culture of crafting and hops, and just the kind of camaraderie and community in it. And it was just refreshing and fun. And he talked me into joining this, jumping into this kind of crazy journey, and it turned good. So You never know. I guess you never know where you're going to go.
That's just awesome.
That's true.
Yeah. So, you guys, I only have a couple more questions. You've been super generous with your time. Is there you have any questions for us on the Sugar Creek side? Anything we can answer for y'all?
Yeah. I want to hear a little bit more about what you think about your first experiences with Elani.
Yeah. I mean, so it's a big risk, I think. Well, let's put it this way. You could make pilot beers where you're doing, say, 5 gallons or 20 gallons or a barrel of beer or even 7 barrels of beer, and kind of get an idea of the flavor, or even do hop teas and things like that. But because of the relationship we have with you guys, kind of we talked about how do we give this the best chance. We've heard it was really nice, and so we put it right into production. And our idea was, hey, we'll run it right through the whole production process. That way it gets the lowest DO, it has the best yeast, everything's treated properly, and it'll get canned, and you can give it a good sensory experience. And the aroma initially, when I added the hops to the first batch, when I added a portion right after the first day of fermentation, and there's a lot of talk about that biotransformation and how the yeast interact with the hops, and there's enzymatic action and stuff like that will produce different flavors. So when we first added it and I smelled it, I was taken back a little, not necessarily by how nice it was. So initially my first impression was kind of like, wow, that smells really different. Not bad, but really different, where it stood out. And I've learned now, brewing for 10 years professionally, that first impression you have you have to kind of give it patience and give it time, because it always develops. So a few days go by and we try it every day. We do sensory in the morning, see how this hop develops. And it just got more and more beautiful in the beer. Nothing else to say about that. It softened up, and more of those tropical flavors came out. And there was I think could be a variety of things, but we had some yeast in there, and when you add a big hop charge, you can get some nucleation, release some sulfurs, stuff like that. So you're not sure where those things are originally coming from, but then after a few days in there, giving it time to ferment, we used ale yeast, and we're using like a very similar, like a London 3, like a hazy strain, very estery kind of British strain, and it worked together really nice. And you get pineapple and tropical and mango, and less of that pine, really heavy pine. And one of the things that's characteristic with American hops is a lot of times you can get the grassy or kind of like resin. They call it like hop resin flavor, and there's none of that. And I didn't get any onion, garlic, none of those diesel or off flavors like that. So it's looking really promising right now. The beer is in the lager phase. It'll lager for like 3 more days, and then we're going to can Tuesday or Wednesday next week. So I'll be excited to send you, and I can send you the prior batch right to that, and then the Elani batch, and it'd be cool to jump on a Zoom and try it together. That'd be really neat. So
We'll be watching the rating websites, though. I mean,
oh yeah. No, you'll be able to know that too, because
this is the first time I think we've ever fully swapped in the middle. I mean, this thing's going to 1,000 retail locations. So.
It's going to be good, because I think we'll do, we'll say 800 cases, something like that. So we'll push 800 cases out to the market with this, and you'll be able to follow it on Untapped. So the beer, it'll be in unlimited juice. That's the name of the beer. The
first batch will be 800 cases. Yeah.
Yeah. Say 800 cases in this first batch run. So we'll see how we'll get feedback right away on Untapped. Love it or hate it. People jump on there and rate the beer, and you can see when they got it and that kind of stuff, and you get a good idea. And we'll get a feel for it in the tap room. So I'm always hesitant to judge the beer until it's in the package, and then even when it's in the package, I wait a day or two because it even develops from there a day or two after being canned. So a lot of times when you first pull it off the line, especially IPAs and really heavily hopped beers, there's a bitterness that's quite harsh that will it softens up and goes better in like day 2 or day 3.
Especially in the hazies, I think. Yeah.
I think one thing about it, having the lower alpha of 6 to 9, this year it's going to be in that 6 to 7 range. It is helping with a nice, smooth, lower bitterness. And I think those people that would like to try it, it does make a great single hop beer. But we've had a lot of people at the beginning of this that would just take a barrel off of their flagship beer and take out one of the hops and dry hop it with Elani, and then do a side by side. And that kind of opened up a lot of people's eyes, so they could say, oh yeah, they don't have to waste a big batch. They can do a side by side in an easy way if you have that capability.
Yeah, we don't have any single hop beers other than our Pilsner. So I don't know. We do enough volume where we figured one batch we could push out. It'd be fine to do. So yeah, no, it's really, really awesome. And then I guess I'll have one more question and then I'll let you all go unless Eric has anything. But usually we end the podcast every time with Eric. He tells us a story from his times in Afghanistan or Iraq. Eric's a Marine. He was in the Marine infantry. He served in Fallujah twice. And I always ask him to tell us a war story just for fun and like I'm getting attacked by this fly. To kind of lighten it up, and we end on that note. But so my question is, do you have any? What's your war story from Yakima Quality? Do you have any that you want to share? A war story from the fields of the hop, front lines of the hop business.
They're both kind of grinning, but they don't know what something had to have blown up at some point, right?
I'm putting y'all on the spot.
What was one of the crazy things that happened this harvest?
We've had a pretty smooth harvest. It's just been a grind, and having good staff has been very helpful. But yeah, I don't know. Nothing jumps out right now.
The very first bale of Elani.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So the very first bale of Elani this year. So the very first bale from our mature field ever. We were so excited about it. Tim and I are waiting for the truck, literally waiting for the truck to come from the farm to deliver it to our storage. And we're waiting. It doesn't come. It's like, are you serious? The first truck. What's going on? First bale. So excited. Driver finally shows up. It's one bale short. Turns out on the way to our place, it fell off the truck onto the freeway, exploded, and was spread out throughout all of Yakima's highways. So that was the very first bale. That was ominous. But then after that, the next several thousand bales were perfect. So we were happy we got it out of the way.
Yeah. So the driver called the grower and said, "Hey, I lost a bale." So they drove up there to find it, and all they could find was just leaf all over the road. It completely exploded.
Oh man.
Oh wow.
That's a good story though. I'm sorry it happened.
Yeah.
Man.
That's crazy. Well, hey, a big thank you to you guys for coming out and taking an hour out of your day to chat with us and tell us about it. We're excited to try this stuff. And a personal thanks from Eric and I both for how flexible and how good you all have been to us as we've tried to grow our company. Because I know sometimes cash can get tight, and you worked together with us and helped us grow. And it's just been we've been really grateful for that and believed in us. And you're stayed a great vendor and supplier for us. And a personal thank you to you guys. And I hope we have 10 more good years in the future.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate all the business you've done with us too. So now I'm looking forward to the war story.
Oh, we want to get Eric give us one. Okay. He thought he was off the hook.
Afghanistan or Iraq? What do you think?
Pick one.
All right. So we're in Afghanistan. We're taking down this compound. And when I was in the Marine Corps, I went through this special operations training. One of the things that I did was something called assault climbing. And it was this new thing they were teaching us in Afghanistan because we were finding out that a lot of these guys were hiding their drugs. Did I tell this story already? I don't think I did. Anyway, we go through this entire compound. We get to the back, and we can't find anything. But it's just such a nice compound. There's poppy fields everywhere. You know, that's why I'm telling the story to you guys. You know, because you know, you guys are growers, so we're sitting there, and it's like, man, these are definitely heroin guys. There's no guns. There's no anything anywhere. So we start climbing the cliffs behind this compound, and we got about 125 feet up, and we just started seeing these big boulders that were laid on top of each other. And it just looked so fishy to me. And I had a lieutenant from Pittsburgh, I believe, and he could run like the wind. That was the problem in the Marine Corps. All the lieutenants ran their balls off so that they could run the crap out of us because we were in the infantry, and that was their main thing, you know. So he slivers in between these rocks, and he ends up finding a couple revolvers and just a dumb long rifle. And I remember going, man, that's bogus. And I keep climbing, and next thing you know, I see these plastic garbage bags off in this, like Indiana Jones. You put your hand in the hole and you're not sure if you're going to bring out a stump or not. I stick my hand in there and I pull out
The stump of an arm?
Yeah, you never know. In the Indiana Jones, things, they always tell you, like, don't stick your hand in the hole, and you have to. So I bring out a bag, and it's just a humongous bag of unprocessed heroin, basically the poppy, that these guys, they would, in the mornings, they tend to stay out of the heat. So in the morning, they wake up in the morning and they scratch the bulbs with these knives or tools. And then the sun makes them bleed all day. And then they come back by on the reverse side of this tool is a flat side, and they scrape all the resin off the bulbs. And I ended up pulling out 2 big basketball size bags of black tar, unprocessed style heroin, I guess. And I remembered being so proud to do it. And my lieutenants were so happy, and everybody's like, this is probably $1 million worth of unprocessed heroin. I got another award for that one. It was one of those moments where I was happy and sad too, because I realized that this family that grows this poppy ended up losing a significant amount of money when we ended up finding that. But that's my Afghanistan story on crops. How about that?
Perfect.
Well, gentlemen, we appreciate the time. Definitely.
Thanks, Eric.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.